Hello. Have you ever wondered where the research is that backs up the design guidelines that's given to you on any project? Have you ever wondered about the validity of the decisions that you make on design projects? Or even yet, how well your design projects actually function for your clients once you've completed them? The responsibility to incorporate evidence-based design into every single healthcare project that you do is just as crucial as getting your professional designation. And quite frankly, our clients, our seniors that reside in our personal care homes that we design, rely on you so that you can give them the most independent lifestyle and quality of life that they deserve. My name is Wrublowsky, and I'm a principal with MMP Architects. And today, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to take you through my journey in evidence-based design. I'm going to share with you the profound impact that it's had, not only on my firm, but on myself as a designer moving forward. Thank you for your time today. What if I were to tell you that there's some really, really bad design out there because design simply gets passed down from one project to the next? And the reason is because that's the way you're told we always do things. This path of design not only compromises our abilities to enjoy a good quality of life, but uninformed design can actually strip away any dignity left and accelerate the trajectory of their decline. Evidence-based design aims to change this. Today, you're going to learn how to introduce evidence-based design into your practice, which will enable your design team to be more confident that the design efforts are informed by research and that the anticipated outcomes will produce positive results for your clients. The goal of today's presentation is to help you get started as a research firm and explain to you why it makes sense to incorporate evidence-based design into your practice. We're going to talk about how the firm is compensated for your efforts and who in the firm is best suited to drive the process. What does that process look like? How much reading does it entail? What kind of commitment do I have to apply to bring evidence-based design to our practice? Does the evidence-based design add time to the effort-driven, the work breakdown structure? And what exactly can I expect if I do embrace evidence-based design commitment into my practice? How will it benefit us? Your journey should start with your Edac Certification. This is going to provide you with the foundation and the structure on how you apply the research to your projects. Study guides are available from the Center for Health Design, and I would suggest that you should allow yourself a couple of months to absorb the material before you write the exam. This is not the type of exam that you take a few days off in the week and hope to pass. It is a bit more involved and takes a little bit more effort on your part to do so. Achieving your Edac certification is another layer of professional expertise that you can offer your clients. We all know that the learning process never stops, and quickly after your university degree, you likely have achieved your LEED designation, followed by the firm's ability to provide National Energy Code for building modeling. Your Edac certification tells your clients that you have invested in learning how to apply the best practice, and that the decisions that you make on their behalf are solid and founded in research. It's yet another layer of the expertise that you apply to your professional development, and it makes your opinion credible and will provide a solution that is not only defendable, but one that is associated with proven positive health outcomes. So you ask, how far do I have to take my evidence-based design into my projects? As you ramp up with your evidence-based design journey, you'll engage in different levels of commitment. There's actually 4 different levels, but even the earliest application of evidence-based design will bring rewards to your project. Once you get your Edac certification, you're going to start reading a lot of research papers. And this is really the beginning of your journey at a level 1 practice. You're going to take the information that you learn and you're going to start to apply it to your projects. As you continue with your efforts, level 2 practice brings in more structure, where you will follow an evidence-based design 8-step process to define your research goals early. Perform a lit review and then interpret the findings relevant to your stated outcomes. Then you move on to level 3 that takes the next step to formalize and document your evidence-based design efforts, including measuring the results and then sharing the results with the greater evidence-based design community through speaking engagements or through creating white paper content.
The last and most rigorous level of practice would be your level 4 practice, where you publish your work and findings in peer-reviewed journals, and you collaborate with other academic social scientists. In general practice, I would suggest that you aim to strive for at least a level 3 commitment. Personally, for myself, the greatest reward is attending conferences, speaking at conferences, and sharing information with like-minded professionals. Once you start reading and collecting your research papers, you're going to need a good reference manager to organize not only the papers themselves, but also your notes, the markups, and the keywords that you will tag to these papers so that you can easily and quickly retrieve them in the future when you need them.
I can't stress the importance of choosing a correct reference manager. So when I first started, I had, say, 200 papers, and I chose a reference manager that simply wasn't robust enough. In fact, it eventually became unsupported and it's no longer available. So I had no choice but to migrate all of my information and my work effort into a new reference manager. I ended up losing a lot of information, a lot of very important information, such as the keywords, the individual annotates that I had made for myself. And so when you choose the reference manager, I really strongly suggest that you do put the effort into keeping it updated. Choose a robust one that appears to be well supported, and put the effort into creating the keywords so that for your future projects, you're going to quickly be able to retrieve the information that you know you've read someplace, but it's buried in 1,000 research papers and you can't quite remember where.
As you continue to read research papers, you'll learn that they're structured pretty much the same way. And these terms are going to be terms that you're going to become comfortable with, and you're going to quickly start looking for these parts of the research paper to quickly assess whether or not the research paper is consistent with what you're looking for. Things that you're going to be looking for specifically are going to be the independent variable, and that is going to be the decision or the design decision that you are applying to your project. And the outcome of that design decision is your dependent variable, and that will be the benchmark in which you measure the success of what you're trying to achieve.
As you continue to build your research library, you're going to start to see that there are patterns that emerge. As I got upwards to even the first few hundred papers, I could start to see that all of the papers could fall into one of 5 different categories. So I started to organize all my papers into those categories as I moved forward.
These placeholders for research describe the basic design attributes that concentrate on the spatial hierarchy of the design, that is how the building is generally designed and laid out, the interior environment and how it achieves residential character, the engineering aspects such as lighting control, air movement, air qualities of space, thermal comfort. This category is where you learn about circadian rhythm design, seasonal associative disorders, and the design interventions that you can include to combat those. Assist measures addresses all of the individual's ambulation challenges through appropriate assist measures such as understanding sit-to-stand mechanics, understanding how to achieve confident walking gaits, how to correctly choose grab bar and handrail profiles, and how to correctly choose furniture. Lastly, the orientation deals with design aspects that help achieve confidence in understanding the environment. So this is going to be for individuals who have higher acuities and cognitive challenges, and they can easily become lost in an environment if you don't have the appropriate wayfinding tools incorporated, or they're driven to elope and exit a secured area. So why should your firm invest in evidence-based design and introduce it into your practice? Applying evidence-based design into your practice will immediately bring about a greater confidence in your client because the knowledge that you share and ultimately introduce into your client's projects is backed by a community of knowledge with rigorous research behind it. And clients are starting to ask for Edac certification on your design team, and quite rightfully so, actually. Applying evidence-based design to your practice has some immediate benefits. It makes your opinion around the design table much more relevant knowing that it's founded on research. It helps build your brand as a research firm, and this sells confidence to your clients. It provides a template to inform design that is linked to the outcomes that you are trying to achieve. It gives you an opportunity to grow the professional development in your staff. There's always more to learn. And it gives you an advantage over your competition. But most importantly, the application of evidence-based design is going to allow you to contribute to making your clients' lives much better. And these are your clients. And I find this research seriously disturbing. I would think so would you. And if I told you that through the application of evidence-based design, you can have a direct impact on making a dent in some of these numbers, that in itself should be compelling enough to know that you can make a difference through quality design that's backed in research, and we can bring a better quality of life to our clients. Staying current with the research also keeps your designs current with your clients' needs. Because the average age of people paneled for long-term care is increasing, we also start to see a rise in the levels of acuity, bringing about higher levels of cognitive impairment, incontinence challenges, and higher levels of depression. Applying the research is also going to challenge you to start to see things through a different lens. And I would challenge you that after you spend just a little bit of time researching the impact of the physical environment on depressive symptoms of older residents living in care homes, that you wouldn't want to break away from the traditional institutional past trends. We can do better. So where exactly do you begin with the research? This isn't something that you can go to your client and expect them to prioritize and say, I want to focus on X. It simply doesn't happen, and you'll get the deer in headlights look. So if I could make a suggestion, I would encourage you to learn about the RAIC scale. That's the Resident Assessment Index Minimum Data Set Scale. This is an international method used to assess a resident's acuity level for the placement in a personal care home. And not too many designers are familiar with this assessment scale, but it can hold some pretty insightful direction for you. There are 6 different scales used to determine a person's acuity level and what type of care plan that they might require in a care home. This graphic depicts each scale, and the boxes under each depict the standard that a person's performance is measured against. There are roughly 75 potential deficits that a person is measured against, and of these 75 markers, 30 of them can trigger a design response to assist the individual to be more successful. You're going to want to learn about these. As a designer, you want to understand these deficits and through research introduce an evidence-based design process to hypothesize design strategies to produce positive health outcomes. Start with a topic that might interest you and state your evidence-based design goals. Then you start your lit review to inform the design, and now you've just gotten through the first 2 steps of the evidence-based design process. And here's where the fun really begins. Your goal was to reduce fall reduction, one of the assessment criteria under the ADL, that's Activities for Daily Living, performance scale, which addresses one's ability to ambulate independently, which includes performing a sit to stand, that's rising from a chair unassisted. Quickly, you're going to learn that your research is going to take you down a number of different rabbit holes. You're going to likely start with grab bar design, and you're going to learn that grab bars have different shapes to them. You're going to learn that the profile of the grab bar has different abilities to allow a successful sit to stand. You're going to learn the differences between a lean rail and a grab rail. And then maybe you're going to go down the rabbit hole of looking at different flooring surfaces, which you're going to learn about postural sway, which is a marker of the confidence somebody has as they walk across different flooring surfaces. So the surface contrast of floors becomes important. The heel velocity is yet another marker of an indicator that tells if somebody is confident as they walk across the flooring surface. The faster the heel velocity, the less confident you are as you make your way across a floor. You'll learn about the coefficient of friction between different flooring surfaces and the compliance of the floor. That's how squishy it is, all of which have a direct impact to fall reduction. Did you know that over 50% of falls occur while toileting? This takes your research down yet another rabbit hole of learning about how to design a bathroom that allows for the greatest independence for an individual. You'll learn about the 5 different forms of incontinence and how designers you can reduce incontinence episodes. You'll learn how the ADA guidelines are not appropriate for seniors as they transfer from a wheelchair to a toilet. You'll learn how the varying sink heights, as little as 3 inches, can drastically improve the ability for a resident to rise from a wheelchair in front of a sink. Lastly, you're going to learn about furniture. You might venture into furniture design and how the design of a chair has a great impact on fall reduction. You'll learn that the extension of an armrest or the weight and stability of the chair are both crucially important. Bed design is yet another area that is often overlooked, and we need to understand the effect of the compliance of the mattress that somebody has when they're seated on it in relationship to their hips, to their knees, to the floor. You need to learn when rails are appropriate and the technologies such as bed alarms and how they're used and when it's appropriate to introduce them into your design. And lastly, the relationship of the mattress height to the floor, all of which have an impact on the resident fall frequencies. The interesting thing here is that as you continue to research in other areas of interest, you're going to stumble across additional information that you may not have captured earlier in the lit review when you were studying fall reduction. So in this case, I started to research the impact of poor sleep hygiene, primarily to build a case to include specific color temperature nightlights in resident bathrooms so we wouldn't disrupt their circadian rhythm pattern when they got up at night to use the toilet. And I discovered that poor sleep patterns contributes to the frequency of falls. So now we can add this to our arsenal of tools to inform our designs. See how the more research you complete, the more robust design strategies are developed, and you become better able to inform the design decisions to support the autonomy and the quality of life for your clients. Remember earlier when I said when you think you're finished reading, read some more? This is what I mean. What does evidence-based design look like, and what type of reading does it entail? For me, there are 2 forms of really useful information. If I'm searching for something very specific, I'll eventually find exactly what I'm looking for, and that's when you get that aha moment. This is very rewarding, possibly after spending a couple of hours of research trying to find the supporting documentation. The other form is more educational, where I want to learn more about the physics behind the research. I find it interesting to learn about heel velocities or sit-to-stand biomechanics, etc. Here are some examples of what I would refer to as more technical research papers that explain the ergonomics of simply pulling yourself up from a wheelchair in front of a sink. Here we learn about the forces that are generated on the floor as you pull yourself up. This information becomes particularly useful when you apply the research to, say, sink heights. The smallest of adjustments can have significant impacts on the forces required to successfully complete a sit-to-stand. Another great way to share your research is by creating white papers for your team and your clients. I created this particular white paper for a client who is requesting exactly what was the most appropriate door width to a resident room. Because the local authorities were suggesting that a 44-inch door would be required, he wanted to know if he could make them smaller. A 44-inch door is a very heavy door and difficult to open. Upon researching the request, I discovered the issue was more related to the wheelchair movement, and that by offsetting a doorway away from the corridor wall plane, we could reduce the door width because the wheelchair movement would now negotiate the opening perpendicular to the opening, which would require a smaller doorway, which would also result in less injury to the residents from the wheelchair and wall collisions. Incorporating evidence-based design into your practice does take a commitment. It does require effort. It's certainly more involved than applying design without it. So, is this an add-on service that you can upsell to your clients? How are you compensated for this extra time and effort if you do choose to apply evidence-based design into your practice?
That's a great question, and you're not going to probably like the answer. you're not directly compensated for your evidence-based design efforts. But what you will gain is a better team that's going to outsell your competition based on the depth of the knowledge base that you apply to the projects and the commitment that you're going to provide a research-backed, better informed design solution. So really the return on your investment here would relate more about that 1 or 2 extra jobs that you're going to get every second or third year that you might not otherwise have been successful on.
Let's take a closer look at how we apply evidence-based design in an actual case study. This specific case study looks at a small rural Manitoba personal care home. The existing personal care home is approximately 30 years old, and it's a double-loaded corridor and very much an institutional model. But the client wishes to expand the capacity by about 120 plus residents. The new resident population will require a dedicated area for behavioral challenges. And the client also wants to expand the capacity to secure an outdoor area, which is lacking in the existing personal care home. Lastly, the client would like to move forward with a small house model. Recall our 8-step process to incorporating evidence-based design into your projects. We start with our goals and definitions, and we've already done that by learning of some of the client's interests. We know that we're utilizing a small house model concept. We know that the existing population has individuals that are easily agitated, like most long-term care environments have, and they also may have behavioral challenges. We know that we need to design an appropriate outdoor secure courtyard, and later we also learned that the staff retention was another area where our expertise was required. So with this in mind, we begin our literature review or move on to step 2. As you perform literature reviews, you get really good at developing a series of relevant keywords that will produce the best results for your search efforts. Every research paper will have keywords attached to the front end, and you'll see patterns of keywords the more that you collect. From my own experience, I knew that keywords such as quality of life, depression, agitation, staffing, MAPLE scores, frontal temporal lobe disorder, Lewy bodies, and lastly, small house would yield really good results. You will also see this familiar research tree where the top branches show the search engines and the lower branches begin to filter down the papers that you reviewed. You'll discard the ones that are questionable due to a lack of rigor or perhaps competing interests such as they're vendor generated and there's a conflict of interest, or perhaps the date that they were created is simply too old for your study. We're then left with a short list of papers, and perhaps we can also expand the search to open it up to additional studies such as gray papers or journal articles. In this case, 62 additional studies were included. Our efforts are then rewarded eventually with a solid set of papers that you can now spend some more time to absorb the content to inform the design process for your project. And now it's time to apply what we've learned in the early design schematics. And I'm going to show you how to communicate your research efforts that are incorporated into your designs and how to share these with your client as you move through the schematic to design development of your project. What our office likes to do is create a series of small vignettes every time that we tour a nursing home. The basic diagrams quickly illustrate the spatial hierarchy of the floor plans and serve as a great concept generator to develop parts of your own project. By spending the time doing this, it also shares the knowledge with the rest of your staff versus locking it away with the individual designer that had the privilege to complete the tour. We call this our nursing home brain. And in this case study, I chose to explore the same spatial relationship as the bottom right diagram, which is incidentally a sketch of the Levendale Continuing Care Community in Baltimore. So here we have our early design concepts of the project where we've identified the existing personal care home. And then we've created 3 separate households, and we've used the building footprint of these new households to create 2 separate enclosed and secure courtyards. Our small house models include 2 14-resident households and a single 13-resident household. And then we proposed to renovate the existing institutional wing into behavioral health unit referred to as a special care household. We then used precedent images from our many site tours, online research, and past projects to convey the quality of space that we're attempting to achieve. We then overlay our evidence-based design research through a series of icons that we've developed in-house that each relate to one of 7 domains of wellness. Each domain of wellness has an associated research category with it, and we share this with our clients. You can learn more about the domains of wellness from researching Dr. Al Powers, who has a number of books on the subject. One of my favorites is Dementia Beyond Disease. What you end up with will be a schedule of evidence-based design interventions that each relate to a stated objective with a positive health outcome. Our office actually includes this information as part of our contract document set, and we share this with the contractor so that they are also included in the understanding of the smallest nuances that make up the design strategies to support autonomy and overall quality of life for the residents. This collaborative effort creates a buy-in from all our stakeholders. Another method to communicate your evidence-based design overlaid research is in room data sheets, where we identify each design strategy with the associated desired outcomes using the domain of wellness icons. Again, each icon represents a specific design intervention, and for this data sheet, we include the citation reference where the specific design intervention was extracted from. If you would like to incorporate the same style of icons that associate the domains of wellness to your evidence-based design research, you can download my design guideline without cost that goes into much greater detail to explain the definitions of each of these domains of wellness. You can download them from the Seniors in Mind website or the Facility Guidelines Institute. Who is the best person suited in your office to lead this charge? Evidence-based design simply isn't turned off or on depending on the project. It's a commitment that lives and breathes in your office and will find its way into all of your design efforts. So the person entrusted in making this happen really needs to enjoy collecting and reading research facts. They need to be organized in the way that they manage it, and they need to communicate well in what they've learned with the rest of the team and your clients. If you think you're that person to take on this EBD challenge in your firm, then you're passionate about building a new understanding using the research tools to inform your design. You do enjoy science and literature, and you can find motivation in the smallest of details. You're graphically creative, and you can find interesting ways to explain otherwise difficult material. You truly want to make a difference in your clients' life challenges. You truly want to learn and distribute your work, findings, ideas through literature and presentations. And you enjoy the networking through the evidence-based design community. You like going to conferences and you like sharing your ideas. What exactly can you expect if you embrace the commitment to introduce evidence-based design into your practice? I find that you will approach everything through a different lens. You're going to become the keeper of a greater knowledge within your firm, and you're going to be sought out to participate in design discussions that relate to specific areas of interest. But commitment here is the key word. It does not happen overnight. Give yourself a few years to really build your knowledge. And if you're really serious about evidence-based design, you're going to find that your catch-up reading is no longer Friday night fiction. Does evidence-based design add time to the work breakdown structure of a project? Well, sure it does, but that's the wrong way to view evidence-based design. It's not about tracking your time. You're going to become a better designer. It's more about an investment in yourself. I would argue that evidence-based design is also going to provide you with a toolkit of parts, just like I had all of those icons every time I did a site tour that I can quickly reference. And it gives you a quicker launching pad or start towards a solution of a successful design.
So that just about wraps up my time with you today to talk about evidence-based design, the positive impact it's had on my firm, and the positive impact it's had on me personally. We've covered a lot of material very quickly today, but I'm hoping you've picked up enough to know that it's logical to get your Edac certification and go down this path to apply evidence-based design in all of your projects. I know you'll be a better designer for it. I know that ultimately you will get more work because of it. And you're going to be changing people's lives. That's really the main reason why you want to do this. It's very important. So thank you for your time with me today. Now go and be awesome.